"2020 has tested us all, from businesses to cities, towns, and villages. Now more than ever, we have to reimagine our future, which includes strengthening the bridge between the public and private sectors. That's why I'm excited to welcome you to our bonus Pre-City Summit Day, focusing on the power of public-private partnerships. It's a day dedicated to exploring and learning from your peers and partners from all sectors. Today, we will hone in on innovation and collaboration, solutions that will create a better future for America's cities. We will discuss racial equity, cybersecurity, police reform, and of course, reimagining the retail landscape.
As NLC's Corporate Council 2020 co-chair and the Vice President of Marketing at Excella, which for decades has designed and delivered software exclusively to government, I've witnessed how the private sector quickly refocused efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic to help cities reinvent how they serve and protect residents. Today, we'll shine a spotlight on these initiatives so we can learn how partnerships between NLC member cities and corporate partners can continue to deepen to bring about a better normal.
As the other co-chair of NLC's Corporate Council and the vice president of the grants platform at Lexipol, which helps local government find grants to fill crucial funding gaps, I see every day firsthand how important and necessary it is for the public and private sectors to work together. That is why today is critical in bringing together both sectors to form lasting and mutually beneficial connections.
Today marks only the beginning of the dialogue. It is our goal that through this special Partnerships Day, we can provide a platform of collaboration for the public and private sector. The goal is to find solutions that will deal with the biggest problems that we have together so that we make all of our communities better. I believe that great public policy is only created when you have both sectors coming together to solve them. So thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future.
Hi, I'm Steve Benjamin, the Mayor of Columbia, South Carolina. I'm excited to welcome all of you to the IGNITE US Mayoral Virtual Roundtable hosted by the NLC Cities Summit. The roundtable today is focused on reimagining the future, the power of partnerships. Today, you're going to hear from amazing leaders and mayors, including the Mayor President of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Sharon Weston Broome, my friend, the former President of the African American Mayors Association, Hardie Davis, the Mayor of Augusta, Georgia, our fearless leader, Clarence Anthony, the Executive Director and CEO of the National League of Cities, and George Burciaga, the Managing Partner of IGNITE Cities. I wish I could be there with you all today, but I know it's going to be a fantastic event, and I want to thank all these incredible leaders for spending some time with you, the leaders who are shaping the future of this great country. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you all very much, and thanks to our mayors for being here today. And I'd also like to thank IGNITE for partnering with NLC to host the U.S. Mayoral Roundtable. You know, today's roundtable is about public-private partnerships. It's about how we make our communities better by partnering with the private sector for solutions, for ideas, to be able to improve our communities through these partnerships. You know, and our collaboration with IGNITE allows us to bring you this type of content as local leaders, to listen to intimate conversations with mayors on challenges that they are facing and really give you some ideas and maybe how it could apply in your community. Today, I'm just honored to have two mayors joining this conversation today that I have admired for years. Mayors who have really dug in on this issue of public-private partnerships, taking their years of experience from the state level down to the local level, partnering with every level to be able to come up with solutions. And so I will, again, this is an opportunity that you can tell I'm so excited about, introduce the two mayors. We have Mayor Broome from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The mayor has really, in her role as mayor, engaged the procurement process in the business communities to come up with practices that is inclusive and that's very successful. And then we have Mayor Hardie Davis from Augusta, Georgia, who has been on the forefront of public-private partnerships as well. And bringing in that cyber perspective has been very key to the success of Mayor Hardie Davis's process that he has created in Augusta. So let's get to it. Let's have that conversation. And this is a conversation, y'all. This is not a time where we're just gonna give you some talking points. We just want to share a conversation between some mayors with me. So I'm going to start with Mayor Broome and just say again, welcome, and just ask you to talk to us a little bit about why public-private partnerships are important and what kind of practices have you implemented and what have you learned that elected officials, local officials should implement to be successful?
Well, thank you so much, Clarence, for this opportunity, to NLC IGNITE and to my colleague, Mayor Davis. You know, I learned early on that the strength of public-private partnerships, we're in a COVID-19 world now. And when the COVID-19 first emerged on the scene, the virus, and people were talking about tests, we already had a relationship with our private hospitals. We don't have a health department here in Baton Rouge in the mayor's office. We don't have a health department. We have a Mayor's Healthy City initiative, which is a nonprofit which connects to issues of health. So we have a partnership with all of our private hospitals as a result of that nonprofit. And so when COVID-19 hit, we went to our private hospitals, and with their help, without any help from the federal or state level, we were able to stand up the first drive-through testing site, because each hospital used their resources, their volunteers, their people, and every day we had a drive-through opportunity for people to be tested. That would not have happened so expeditiously had we not had the public-private relationship, this partnership with our city and with the hospitals here. So I like to use that as a very clear example because we all know the challenges that municipal government has faced during this pandemic.
No, that's very important, and I do think we all know that will make and has made a difference in terms of getting accurate information, accurate data, and therefore being able to respond. Mayor Davis, same question, and as you talk about it, you know, how did you identify those partnerships, and what designs, what kind of design that you have in order to achieve your goal of true public-private partnerships?
Well, Clarence, thank you for that. And again, thank you to IGNITE and National League of Cities and my good friend, Mayor Sharon Weston Broome, for being a part of today's conversation. I like that word, conversation. When I think about what's happened in Augusta, not just where COVID is concerned, but more importantly, the issue of partnerships. We oftentimes think of public-private partnerships only in terms of economic growth and development opportunities. And the reality of it is, what COVID has shown us is that we have to build new runways. And those runways need to be long and they need to transcend the ideas around just economic growth to the reality of health and welfare of all of our citizens. And in this instance, early on, at the point in time that we issued an executive order, we began building a framework of a task force, the COVID-19 task force, of all of our private hospitals and also the public hospital that we have here in the city, and bringing along the public health department from the state to have those broader conversations about what do we do in terms of ensuring the health, welfare, and safety of all of our citizens. What steps do we need to be taking to not only slow the spread of the virus, but to do as much as we could to put people in healthy positions. And so when I think about that, especially now, I go back to some of the trainings that we've learned around how to build those partnerships, especially when we're talking about economic growth and development. You're always looking for that win opportunity collectively and collaboratively. And so often what we do is we only think about it in terms of what's in it for us. But as city leaders, I talk about that no man is an island unto himself. And the reality of it is no city is an island unto itself as well. You've got the private sector that has played a tremendous role in helping us to bend that arc of health and wellness for all of our citizens. And then, of course, the city has played a role. I have a similar example as Mayor Broome, and that is when we first began doing rapid testing, we stood up our firehouses as places that people could actually walk to because they're embedded in the communities. But we didn't have the capacity to do the testing in the city. And so we partnered with our hospitals. We partnered with the Public Department of Health as well and said, we'll create that space. We used firehouses, we used school parking lots. All of those, again, were public spaces that we could get large groups of people at, but we didn't have the testing capacity. And so, again, leveraging the relationship from a partnership standpoint, facilitated getting people tested where otherwise they wouldn't have. You know, we talk about drive-in test sites, and disproportionately, Black and brown communities don't always have that privately owned vehicle. And so those places tend to be away from them, which is why the idea around firehouses was so significant. People can literally just walk up to those locations. And we saw that happen in record numbers, and we were able to, again, get people tested. But that's the power of partnerships, realizing and understanding that we cannot do this good work alone. And it takes the private sector to play a part in that, along with as well as the public sector.
Clarence, could I ask one question? Mayors, it sounds like based out of necessity, innovation was created, these partnerships were created, right? COVID hit, and based out of necessity, these ideas had to form. How different are you engaging these issues from when it started a few months ago, from the break of it, right? We were racing to figure out how to build some relief or recover from this impact to today. Those partnerships were started, additional partnerships had developed, but what's the difference in the conversation you're having? Probably you've had some time to rethink the approach and direction opposed to reacting, but what's the difference? And because you were just finishing your statement, Mayor Davis, can you give me your feelings towards the way it started with these relationships, the partnerships, and where you're at today and your feeling towards moving forward?
Yeah, I think I use that word runway again. When you talk about partnerships, we started this conversation around COVID in our city in March, just like the state of Georgia, really, kind of like the whole country. And we built a short runway because we thought we could attack it, we could get our arms around it, and we began moving to a better place. But we quickly found out that we had to begin extending that runway because we don't know, one, when we're going to have a vaccine. Two, we don't know what the outcome of it being dovetailed with the flu season is. And so we've extended the runway, quite frankly, to handle larger planes, if you use that as an example. And in this instance, we don't know what that date certain is. And so the work that we started has continued. And quite frankly, we now see ourselves at a place where you've got an increase in cases, record numbers of cases. So we're having to bring the troops back and boots on the ground, having the same conversations that we started, but now we're a bit more thoughtful about it because we've got more data, we've got more science that tells us that in some of these cases, it's not as significant as it was before, especially around those asymptomatic individuals. And we're seeing a higher incidence of asymptomatic individuals. And then at the same time, where we close schools, schools are now opening. So again, it's a much longer runway, and the partnerships have had to be broadened as a result of this. And they're helpful because of the private sector saying, we're going to lead so that we can make sure we keep the community safe. But that conversation, that runway is just much longer. And we're not sure when the plane's going to take off, but we can at least stay on the track for a long time. There
you go. And Mayor Broome, same question to you.
Yeah, I love the analogy that Mayor Davis gave of the runway. I love that analogy. And I will tell you that I believe undoubtedly that the foundation of a successful community, of course, whether it's during a pandemic or a weather-related event like we have continuously here in Louisiana with hurricanes and floods, et cetera, it relies on what I believe is a foundation that we all establish, which connects to what Mayor Davis was saying about broadening the runway or lengthening the runway. You have to start with a foundation with the public-private partnerships, one where information sharing has already started, where you've got transparent outreach and you've got a collaborative that you've laid a foundation for. And so when you have emergencies or crises, then it makes it, I'll use the word a little easier to engage those private partnerships to join with you in addressing these issues because you've laid the foundation already, which is what we did. My administration, when I started building these dialogue. I started building dialogue with private entities and organizations here in Baton Rouge on a consistent basis, not just when I needed them, but on a consistent basis. As we all know, one of the powers of a mayor is to convene. So I have used that power on a consistent basis. We started our Mayor's Business Roundtable. So they were in there every month. We started visiting different businesses. We started the same type of conversations with NGOs and nonprofits, a holistic approach to addressing water management with our NGOs. And so we built that foundation so it made it easier during times of crisis to rally everybody together around a shared goal of mitigation. And so I think certainly it's vitally important, I know it is, that you have to lay those foundations. And as a result now, the connectivity that we have, has created more innovative and creative thinking around shared solutions and goals. And so that's how I've seen our public-private partnerships evolve, especially during times of crisis.
Man, if you listen to the Mayor's George, what you would feel is that this is a concept that's always been here and that everybody always wanted this public-private partnership concept. And we know that there's been a lot of skepticism in the past. And so, I want to ask the mayors a little bit about, what types of projects are best under a P3 concept, or what is the reasonable project size that you think can be successful as you implement this approach in your cities? And I'll go with Mayor Hardie Davis. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah. Again, I think when you talk about partnerships, we in this world of creativity and innovation, we've talked over the last several months, quite frankly, since last year, about the future of work. When you look at what COVID has done for the conversation around the future of work and AI, it accelerated that. And we've learned how to do business even at the local government level, where you would have never thought that we'd be teleworking in ways that we're doing right now, because they've long been bastions of this is the way we've done it, and this is the way we're going to continue to do it. But now, when you look at the fact that you've got utilities personnel, waterworks, engineering, people who are working in mobile environments with devices, trucks, and in cars, that is where we are. But we couldn't do that without having the horsepower of partnerships with the Dells of the world, with the HPs of the world, with the Googles of the world, AT&Ts and Comcast,
Ignite.
to talk about how do we get technology in a mobile environment that allows us to still provide the delivery of services in a way to citizens that we otherwise would have never been able to do, because they got to come to the government building and access X, Y, and Z. Those days are gone. So when you think about opportunities, you've got, again, service delivery around not only paying bills, but you've got healthcare. Because of COVID, we've always been a leader in telemedicine and telehealth in Georgia. Augusta has led the way for our state. And as a result of COVID, there was a quick deployment of an app from Augusta University, our state's flagship teaching hospital right here in Augusta, that they deployed that across the state of Georgia to make it possible for individuals who were infected by COVID to take their smart device, iPhone, Android, didn't matter, and get online with a doctor who could do immediate, prescribing and identifying of symptoms, et cetera, before you even show up at an emergency room, a prompt care facility, or anything else. That is what partnerships allow us to do because of that good work. So obviously healthcare is now an arena of where partnerships are going to be vital. And they're vital because the city gets the benefit of that in partnership with our public health universities and our private health facilities as well. Economic growth and development will continue to be a catalytic area for partnerships. But again, I think the delivery of healthcare is paramount to our local, state, and federal success as a nation. And that is the new arena of partnerships. And then the delivery of services to our citizens is another area where partnerships with the private sector, because many of the apps that we're using, you have the capabilities in local government, but not rapid deployment of those things, which is why partnerships with IGNITE Cities for us in Augusta around how we help the homeless community with a resource between them and MasterCard and Mocafy and other things has been so critical to how you meet the needs of people across all spectrums of life. And that's where we are.
Mayor Broome?
Yeah, I think that our public-private partnerships certainly can be all-inclusive, all range of sizes, from educational programming to infrastructure projects. We have used here in Baton Rouge through my administration, public-private partnerships for our infrastructure improvements. We've used it for community development, for education, supporting our businesses, as well as protecting the health of our community. And I'm going to repeat something I said earlier. Admittingly, when I first embraced this job, I will have to tell you, the whole conversation around public-private partnerships was a little bit for me. I was still trying to embrace and wrap my mind around how would that look. And so now I see how it looks. I see how it looks with our partnership that we have with our Cradle to K early childhood development, with our Mayor's Youth Workforce Experience, where we have a private business who is helping to fund that initiative. I see with the largest, so that's from our smallest initiative to perhaps our largest initiative, which is our Move EBR program, the largest infrastructure project in the history of Baton Rouge. This half-cent sales tax was successful because I partnered with the business community to get them on board to be a part of making this a reality. And now we still have that partnership. And of course, you know, as we have navigated COVID-19, I shared with you about the health community, the medical community's partnership. But even in the midst of that, while balancing our economy, we reached out to our business community. And through that, we were able to start our key VR serving program, where we, and I would put this in the perhaps small private partnership initiative, where we got companies to buy gift cards for our restaurants to help keep them standing. And then we went out to the business community once again and established a $1 million micro grant program that's being facilitated by the Urban League. But the $1 million came from private partners who wanted to help us sustain our small businesses during this pandemic. So I have seen those public-private partnerships have a broad range from small investments to large investments.
But Mayor, if you had to give some mayors who've not engaged in the public P3 space before, any risk, any advice, like a beware type advice?
Yeah, you know, I think that there's always the risk of perception, right? That's one risk from constituents, because we don't want anybody thinking that these public-private partnerships are developing a shadow government, right? So you have to be guarded about that moving forward. And I think that is certainly one of the risks that you take when you start that public-private partnership path, because there are many people who think when you start talking about public-private partnerships that your goal is to privatize everything. And that is not the goal with public-private partnerships. And so that's why I think these examples are so helpful for individuals, because sometimes that public-private partnership path is a little bit, you're trying to wrap your mind around it and visualize how you can practically apply it to your city.
You know, if I could add to that, I think that Mayor Broome is correct. The perceptions, you've got the perceptions of, well, what do they want? That's one example. But more importantly, I think when we begin framing the conversation for other mayors, it's an opportunity to say, let's work together. I won't even use the term, let's do business together. Let's work together to make our community better, to make our city stronger, and to impact the lives of our citizens in a way that neither of us could do singularly. But together, we're stronger and we're able to make greater impact in terms of, again, solving some of our greatest challenges in the community. The government can do so many good things, but we can't do a lot of good things without having that support from the private sector. But it also goes the other way. Mayor Broome mentioned it. We've done it here in Augusta. COVID has impacted our business community significantly. And so with federal resources and other resources, we've been able to provide small business grants to so many, the restaurant industry, which has been severely damaged because of COVID-19, hospitality and tourism industry. And so that reciprocity goes both ways. It's not where we're looking for the business community to come and stand up government always. It's, again, let's work together to bolster our businesses, to bolster the city of Augusta, Baton Rouge, or whatever city you find yourself leading as a mayor. But then as we come together to do the good work, we understand that there will be change that takes place transformatively, that makes all the difference in the world, that then creates tremendous opportunity for current and future generations of individuals who live in our cities because we were willing to work together.
I'll add to that really quick, to Mayor Davis's point and Mayor Broome's point. when you start to develop those relationships, other seeds start to get planted. And I'll give you a good example. In Augusta, after Mayor Davis allowed us to come in to sort of work towards identifying cash relief programs and public Wi-Fi off a number of the smart lighting programs he's working on, we got to meet a very unique organization called Brown Girls Code, which we're working with now. So it's basically an organization working with young girls from unrepresented represented communities that need support from ages 8 to 18, where we're able to support and deliver equipment to them, new equipment. They're actually going to be getting $15,000 worth of equipment to help them with coding for STEM classes. But that's because Mayor Davis let us in. Mayor Davis introduced us to him. Mayor Davis gave us the opportunity to see what could be possible. And while we look at the infrastructure that could be developed to support the community, which is required during a pandemic, there are also these other seeds that get planted. You get to meet other community leaders, other organizations, and you start to really recognize how you could be supportive. I don't live anywhere near Augusta, but I know that the organization is important enough because I'm one of those kids. You know, I grew up in an underserved community where I wanted to evolve based on necessity because I was poor, guns, violence, and everything else that could happen. So when I see them, I see a glimpse of me and my kids. So those types of things will occur. And in fact, we just introduced them to one of the largest technology firms in the world who's going to mentor them in 2021 as well. So a lot of great things evolve from this while we're dealing with the pandemic. And this is why I believe these public-private partnerships are so important. I'm going to ask one additional question. While COVID has lifted all of our weaknesses to the surface, and you've recognized them and you've talked about them, and partnerships are essential to kind of work through this, there's something that we found out was prevalent more than we thought it was, which was broadband in general. The idea that we need to be connected in order to get healthcare. We need to be connected in order to educate. We need to be connected in order to work. Partnerships have started to develop, and I'll say this, we just deployed a relief program for public Wi-Fi across the country with different cities. And mayors, we'd love to tell you, Mayor Davis, you know about them, but we're going to continue to work with you to see how we can deploy some of these. But Mayor Broome and other mayors that are listening, if there's something that IGNITE can do to help identify how to make a change or support these partnerships, let us know. But what are you doing in your cities right now, based on the broadband connectivity issues, to sort of not only deal with the relief portion, but long-term? What's the view on the long-term partnership for connectivity? I'll start with you, Mayor Broome.
Yeah, and you bring up a very important issue, and that's the whole access to broadband in disinvested communities, especially. And I think that it's interesting how this pandemic has put the spotlight on so many issues: health disparities with the digital divide, because now we have students who have to have access, who are not only in the classroom, but learning virtually. And so we've been working with our private sector to address inequities through digital resources, such as online programming, and by really working to improve access to opportunities. And so a lot of our help with programs like, the ones that we have developed have been with grants that we've received through companies like Humana and Blue Cross Blue Shield. I believe undoubtedly that we've got some work to do. I know we do when it comes to improving and closing that digital divide. Some of our local companies here, we've had conversations with them. They provide various programs to help families who may not have the resources when it comes to the internet access, et cetera. But I think that we have to move forward with the whole digital divide with a heightened level of partnerships. And we've got to be very strategic in closing that divide. I say that because, when you say broadband access, I'm talking more than just making 5G available in downtown Baton Rouge, right? So that may mean some extra work that needs to take place with our partners to close that digital divide.
Agreed. And Mayor Davis?
Absolutely. I echo those same sentiments as Mayor Broome. I think the challenges ahead for us, and again, thank you to National League of Cities and IGNITE for one, the incredible work that Clarence and his team do just to provide us with the relationships and the resources. I don't have to do all of the data mining because they've done such an incredible job of helping us understand here are resources, here are relationships. And Clarence, kudos to National League of Cities for making that possible. You do a phenomenal job with that and your team. So we don't have to do the research. We can just pull it down, we know who to call and pick up those things. And then, of course, IGNITE Cities, you've been boots on the ground. I don't have to be the electrical engineer anymore. You can make all of that possible. And that's helpful because when we come to cities, we can simply just be great ambassadors to say, over here on the south side of town, I've got, of the 34,000 students, I've got 16,000 of them over here, and they don't have access to broadband. How do we solve that beyond putting a bus in the parking lot at the school because they don't have anybody to get them to the school? How do I get this deployed on the ground in those locations? And I think that's the challenge going forward. And that's why partnerships, even in today, not just in the private sector, but with organizations like National League of Cities, not just like IGNITE Cities as well, because you do the harvesting, you do the data mining for us to say, here are the relationships that are available through a Comcast and AT&T or Verizon or whoever it is, so that all of that legwork I don't have to do. What we've done in Augusta because of that is that, yes, we've stood up the buses in the parking lots, but as a city, we've taken our community centers and made sure that they have digital access. We now allow students to go into the community centers. They're not playing basketball. They're doing homework. They're doing the things that they otherwise could not do at home because we are reimagining what our community centers are. We're reimagining what our parks are so that, again, we want people to be safe, following the CDC guidelines, socially distancing, washing their hands, wearing masks. We want them to do all of those things, but we want to create safer spaces for them to do that while at the same time getting their homework done, being able to do their research, being able to do those things in terms of applying for college scholarships, applying for colleges, where if they go home, they don't have that access. They don't even have the tools. And so we're making those things available, reimagining even libraries. We're making libraries available for kids and the homeless community to come in and use those resources that they otherwise would not have been able to use because of these types of incredible partnerships that are being made available.
Well, let me just say, on behalf of National League of Cities and George and IGNITE, I have been ignited by this conversation today. And let me tell you why. I think oftentimes we don't think of mayors as CEOs, that they actually think about the business approach to resolving public issues, city issues. And Mayor Broome, Mayor Davis, you have brought that right in front of us, and you provided us with that perspective as public servant leaders that, good public policy is only good when it is developed in a partnership mode. Because if we created a plan, an urban plan of any sort, and then we don't engage the private sector, it is for naught, because a lot of times the investment comes from both ways. So I can tell you that I've learned a heck of a lot. I think you've inspired and ignited our members to be able to think a little bit more globally about what issues fit, what issues are correct for thinking about P3s. But also, Mayor Davis, Mayor Broome, clearly just be creative and reimagine. And I've gotten so much out of this. So I'd like to thank you both for your time and your commitment to sharing and networking. And of course, George and IGNITE Cities, thank you so much for partnering with NLC to bring this content that you've been able to bring to public leaders and private sector leaders as a part of the National League of Cities City Summit. Thank you guys, and
Thank
be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for including us.
All right,
Absolutely.
y'all
Thank you.
be safe and take care of yourself.
All right. Thank you, guys. Very appreciative. Mayor Broome, again, thank you.